the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll do roll call.
Andy Neary,
Yes.
Jim Balzer,
Here.
Mike Boldig,
Here.
Noel Deep, Wayne Gagnon,
Here.
Jeannie Long,
Here.
Mary Newfeld,
Here.
Danny Pyatt, JD Schrader,
Okay, we'll go on. Is there any, nobody signed up there, Tim? No. And we'll go right into the COVID update.
Okay, so the first bit of good news I have for you is from Sarah DeBoer, and that is that we have a continuation of the summer feeding program now through the rest of this school year. So what that means is every student eats free, breakfast and lunch. So, great news. Tim, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, there's more details about the meals we serve and that kind of thing, but in general, that's really great news for our families.
Yes. Okay. And then Coach Schofield is here to give a brief update on how activities are going now and what we'll plan for this winter.
Hi. So yes, athletics have been going very well. We're actually finishing up with some seasons right now. We have a couple girls that made it all the way to state for tennis doubles, and that's this upcoming Thursday, so that's a huge accomplishment, along with the tennis team winning the conference championship this year, which was very nice to see. You know, it's been, for the coaches and the players throughout this entire time, you know, it's been a struggle here and there, obviously with where we're at some point in time, having some of the players being quarantined and going through, you know, and I've had it with workers, even the day before, having to find a new announcer, you know, so there's some struggles that go along with what we're going through right now, but for the most part, you know, our student athletes are very excited and very happy that they were able to play in the fall and are continuing to play, and you know, looking to the winter athletics, you know, in the fall we discussed and talked, and we went with a conference only schedule, and that's the conference only per sport, because some of our conferences are different for per sport. I know there was a question that was asked before about how, you know, the football team got to scrimmage Merrill, but the soccer team wasn't. It's because the football team is in our conference for football, they're not in soccer. So that's kind of, you know, for per sport, that we're going to do a conference only schedule again. I will be informing all of the coaches of that this week. Like I've always been doing, heavily relying on talking with Dr. McKenna and Darlene. They're wonderful to work with, and you know, looking forward to being able to do that in the winter for those athletes. And our clubs have been meeting virtually throughout the day, once a week or once their time is for the month. And then looking into the second quarter, again, talking with the health advisors and our club members wanting to meet in small groups, and they, you know, felt like they really should be able to after our athletics were going and stuff. And so the second quarter, we're going to be reaching out to all of our club advisors and in small groups, allowing them to meet. Obviously, taking attendance and abiding by all of our school district policies and COVID procedures that are intact. So they're going to be very excited about that as well. And that is basically the update that I have for you right now in athletics and activities.
Any questions for Tom?
I got one, and this somebody asked me this just out of interest more than anything, especially with football and with the linemen and everybody being so close up. Are we taking, as our district taking any extra precautions? Is there any extra masking or stuff in the helmets that's helping out in that regard so that there isn't so much close-up? I mean, people have asked, so I'm just curious.
Yes, yeah, no, for football, yes, we are. We have two different types of shields. We have some plastic shields that cover the top and the bottom, or some of the kids that took the plastic shield off and they have a bottom white mask that goes underneath the cloth mask. So we are definitely taking a precaution that way, and our players are using those. We highly recommend, and I've been talking with all the other districts to try to get them to wear them as well. A few of them do here and there. It would be great if they all would, but I know that at least we are doing the best that we can, taking those precautions.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We also wanted you to know, Tom alluded to the in and out, and you get the emails, the in and out of quarantine staff or class or students. So if you were wondering how we supervise them, if a teacher has to quarantine, for example, but not the entire class, we do have, if teachers are able to work, they work remotely then. So they can log in and teach the class from home. But who is supervising those kids? We've relied a lot on IAs for that job. And because we're taking them from their usual element and giving them that responsibility of supervision, sometimes for a full day, we've added to their wages, in that case, a $3 raise, if you will, a $3 per hour addition, just so that they don't, feel taken advantage of. It was a small price to pay for their very invaluable help. So in case you were wondering how we work that out, and then in terms of the numbers in and out, Andy had a great question, which I had to check on. We report daily to you now through the form of the dashboard. If you were all able to open that on the email, and it's now on our website, thanks to Dustin. So that'll give you an update every day on numbers. But what about our remote learners? So I had to check with Darlene, and we have 3 from the beginning of school positives that we are aware of. 3 of our remote learners. So not the same number that's reported, or the same rate that's reported for our in-person learners, but we think the health department is reporting all of those as well, because they give a school, even if they say they're a remote learner. So Darlene is alerted, and the dashboard is likewise updated. The only other thing I would say we have fielded questions on is about a threshold. And when we met last with Dr. McKenna and members of the health department and Darlene, that was one of our first questions too. What is the county or this area's threshold by which we would be told it's not a good idea, we should shut down the district? And there really is not an answer, and Dr. McKenna, jump in if you would. Now I know, like Green Bay today, I brought it just in case. Green Bay today published a nice color-coded, if this, then that kind of scenario, which other districts have tried to do. But,
Excuse
go
me,
ahead.
are they in person?
They are not.
Oh, okay.
So what we tried to do is talk about that, and really, it felt good knowing that while the spread continues in our community, the school district, I'm certain, is involved, but we can't pinpoint that it's because we're in person that it's contributing to the spread. So, Dr. McKenna, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Absolutely, Julie, just exactly to your points. When we look at where cases are coming up within our schools, within our schools, staff and students, it's not from spread within classrooms typically. It's not other individuals, creating a cluster of other groups. What we're seeing is community members from outside the school getting coronavirus, perhaps parents, siblings, other individuals, and then infection kind of crossing that way. And so I think in our conversation, I thought it really made a lot of sense, as long as we're able to maintain staffing, as long as we're not seeing widespread, spread of coronavirus within our schools, that we can pinpoint directly from our students, that it seems reasonable to continue with classes. When you looked at Elko last year, they closed down for a period of time. It was really clear the flu was really, it was widespread in their district at that point. It was passing among students, and so it made a lot of sense for them to shut down for that period of time because of the flu. And so I think it's a similar analogy for us here.
Thank you.
Dr. McKenna, does the health department, so do they track whether or not kids would be transmitting this virus, and do they track, I mean, we've had a lot of cases in our county, do they track what the cause is?
Great question. So you're talking about contact tracing, and there are a couple levels at which this is happening, and I'll have Darlene speak to the efforts within the school district, because, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the health department has essentially delegated that responsibility within the schools to you.
Correct, correct. So as far as the contact tracing, all I can say as far as the answer to the question that you had is the public health during our meeting said that whatever the school district is doing, they are doing a great job, because they feel it is community spread. It is not within the district. All the cases that we have seen so far, especially with the student body, they have either been home quarantined because they're close contact, or they've had close contact with a positive case, either be a family member or someplace that they had been over, 5-10 days prior. So it is not, again, it's all community spread. So they had praised what the district had put together and how well the district is doing at this point in managing. So, as far as contact tracing, the one thing they are doing, they are so overwhelmed at this point that they are looking at close household contacts, basically. And if they find someone who is positive, public health is asking those people to contact their close contacts for them. Because they're getting like up to 50 to 55 a day. They have now 3 nurses and 2.5 contact tracers. And they are working every day. So, they have given me the duty of contact tracing in our school. Today, we were notified of 5 students that have tested positive. These students were home or had been known to be in contact with a positive case. So, as far as having to contact trace, once their symptoms start, we look back 2 days, because they can be infectious 2 days prior to showing symptoms. And we ended up having to send home and quarantine approximately 12 to 15 other students for 14 days. So that's not much for having 5 positive cases. So having just isolate or quarantine that many kids, that's not a large number. So,
Okay.
Darlene, you mentioned how overwhelmed the health department workers are, and I just want to take a moment to say what Darlene has done during this, even prior to school opening. It is very typical for Darlene to work well into the evening on contact tracing and on weekends with our principals. So for example, if on a Sunday we learn that a staff member is positive, principals are contacting, Darlene's doing the tracing, and then principals are contacting every one of those families to say, this is what it means for you, this is when you can start learning remotely, etc. So everybody has really gone above and beyond. And I'm so appreciative of that. And our model isn't perfect, but it is working, all things considered. And that's why we did ask Dr. McKenna and the health department, now that second quarter is approaching, November 9th, can we put a survey out, which we did, and ask every family, what is your intention for your student? If you're remote, do you want to stay remote, or do you prefer to come back in person? And if you are in person, what is your intention? So we're gathering that data now by school. And really for elementary and middle school to a lesser extent, the cohort model is working. So we feel comfortable that we can add more students in our classrooms. And then the high school right now is exploring 2 different options on how to best schedule with students who want to come in person. So once we have updated data, we'll share that with you. But that concludes our COVID update unless you have any questions. I asked that and then I have one more thing to say. But when I read daily, as do you, that other districts are closing and going remote and, cases are rising. I know this is not easy, and I know that maybe we are on borrowed time. I don't know. But in my mind, and when you talk to our families, our staff, and our students, every day, every week we can stay open with those who want to be here is a win. So I just appreciate everyone's efforts in that regard.
Well, it must be a model that's working, because I've heard on the news this week that Wausau's school board has decided to open up their schools. And it's pretty much modeling what we're already doing.
For the staff that was doing. I mean, there was a lot of stress a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Certainly there is still a lot of stress. They will tell you, it ebbs and flows. Now that Canvas is on its way, it's working, and so we've given them, as I shared with you, that deadline of second quarter. We expect to gain a lot of efficiencies there. Fridays, no question, have been a very welcome time of collaboration and work time for them. So just like anything, Mary, I would say some, embrace the challenge faster than others, and that's okay. And we just have to continually support each other. So we're doing okay.
Good.
But it's tough. Yeah.
If I could add, I do want to say that I commend the staff that we do have, because it is working, and I believe it's because of the staff that we have in the classrooms and the staff that are always with the kids. They don't have it easy as far as making sure the kids are always got their mask on, crap-free, or their distance. But my job is made so much easier as far as contact tracing because of what they are doing in the classrooms. And for what, like Julie said, this may not be the perfect model, but it is working. And it's because of the staff that we have in the classrooms and in the schools. Everybody is playing such a key role that I contribute our success thus far to all of them. So they're doing a great job.
Okay, thank you. And we will go on to new business, and we'll start with recognition Wisconsin School Board.
Yes, so if you would, please, there's an envelope in front of you. Please open that. Mary Kay Pregler and I'm sure the rest of us would like to recognize our board for Wisconsin School Board Week, which started on October 4th. If you heard the radio ad, it said this: our board has demonstrated unwavering commitment in providing supports for our families during this global pandemic, and perhaps even more importantly, guiding our school district toward a stronger future. Join me in thanking these 9 individuals for their thoughtful educational leadership and investment. Good things are happening, and it's due to our board and becoming more unified as a district, and we're going in the right direction. So we sincerely want to thank you with a Red Robin mask, and
I'm getting the gym done, right?
know,
Or bling or
yeah,
whatever
bling,
they-
yeah. Know that we
Break the
appreciate
washing
all you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I've been here less than a month and I've already got a reward. How does that work?
Just wait.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'll learn.
And we'll go on to item B, board member meeting and legislative report. And I did not do the Region 5 meeting. I did sit in on the Region 4 meeting, but if anybody'd like to report on the Region 5 one?
It was good. It was good. It was virtual, like everything else is, a lot of the stuff these days. Heard some good stuff from Chris Kulo, our legislative guy. He said right now the legislature, because of the, shall we say, differences between the parties in the governor's office and the legislature, is pretty much been sitting on their hands and not doing a whole lot of anything. And right now, from a standpoint, I think of what the, and Wayne, you were in on it too, so maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like from a budgetary standpoint, everybody was just gonna hang their hat for the time being on status quo, that we wouldn't probably see any new monies for a
Yeah,
while. And John Ashley was expounding on the fact that it is the 100th anniversary of the association, and that unfortunately, because we're not able to meet in person in Milwaukee in January, that they've already decided to go virtual. He did have one nice announcement. He said it was too bad that we couldn't meet in person because this year's featured speaker at the convention will be Donald Driver. Now, since it is virtual, it will be broadcast online. So, and it'll be available for people to watch. So literally anybody from outside the district that would like to listen to his speech this year will be able to listen to it. So that'll be a big plus. But yeah, he said even though we can't meet this year for 2021, 2022, could be a whole different story. And we'll put on a bigger celebration then.
But there is a convention this year. It's just virtual.
The convention will be virtual. There still will be featured speakers for a couple of days. There will be the sessions going on that will all be done virtually. So it'll give board members and administrators, business officials, whatever, opportunity to attend possibly more sessions than they normally would have. Unfortunately, Jeannie, on your behalf, the store is closed this year, no shopping.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Seems like that. Okay, and on that note, Mike, I know when we were at convention last year, you said one of your personal goals was that the entire board would go to the convention.
Yes.
And
This could
would
be the
year to
opportunity.
do that. Because there's really not, yeah,
Not a whole lot of traveling from here to
not a
the.
whole lot of traveling. So, anyway, thank you.
Yep.
And that update for Wayne, do you have anything you wanted to add?
no, just,
Well, no, I do want to say, I had the opportunity to introduce Wayne to some of our regional members and stuff, and he got a pretty warm welcome from our
Yeah.
Region 5 Director, Jim Boucher, John Ashley. It was, you were well received.
yeah, thank you. I'm glad I attended. I mean, no travel involved, so that was kind of nice again, but, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll go on to item C, 2020 third quarter employee assistance program utilization report.
So as you recall, we talked to you about a benefit that comes to our district from our health insurance associates. And this is their annual report or quarterly report that they're sharing. I'll draw your attention to 2 pages. The first is page 2 in that document, and you can see that from January until the end of September, we had 5 new cases. In other words, 5 employees take advantage, or someone in an employee's family take advantage of employee assistance, and completed 25 sessions. And then at the bottom of page 2, that doesn't feel like much, but when you read that the national average for utilization is 3 to 6%, that we fall right into that same margin. Then I would draw your attention to page 6. And basically the first column as to where the referrals come from. And 2 came from our Human Resources Department, and 3 were self-referral. So that tells us, that both options are being utilized by our staff. And it's just a tremendous benefit. In fact, we talked about it again today at our central office leadership team meeting. At a time when emotional and mental wellness are paramount for our staff, we just want them to know that this is available and for free of charge. So hopefully we'll continue using it, and that's the report.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on that?
So this is being alerted in the employee newsletter. Are they talking about this in the employee huddles and that kind of stuff too, or is it just exclusive to?
That's a good question. So when employees are hired, Melanie, when she onboards, talks about it. And then at our kickoff, it was mentioned, I don't know if by school it is mentioned, but I do know if it comes to our attention, for example, if an employee shares that, this is happening, we always remind them because we just think it's a good resource to utilize. So.
Okay. Then we will go on to item D, update of staff compensation model.
All right, this is for Tim and I. I'll start there with the attachment. As you recall, already last year, we put together a teacher committee of volunteers. We had about 35. Work with Tim, Melanie, and me on where they'd like to see our compensation model go. And then COVID hit. So we brought recommendations forward to you. You'll see those recommendations here on this document tonight, but there's been a lapse of time in there. However, in talking with Tim, we feel comfortable that we can share updated numbers with you now with the new staff we have, with exiting staff, and have a discussion tonight, and if you are amenable, bring it back to you for approval at the end of the month. So we can start in the first column with the 1920 schedule. That is now updated, again, with all new staff members, and it shows that every certified staff member has moved, and these are the amounts with the professional development points they would have earned. So that is reconciling what they've already earned again, and you can see at the bottom that's just over a cost of $200,000. So then the next change, the middle column for suggested changes, that comes in meeting with that committee. We looked for areas on the model that the committee felt warranted our attention. Now keep in mind, there were many singletons. So we had people lobby, all over the place. But in general, when we looked at what we could afford and what was getting the most attention, it was the bottom of that schedule. For our most senior teachers, They felt strongly about adding a step 8 there, so we did. So the model now goes up a few more $1,000s than it did last year. And Tim, how am I doing? All right. And finally, on the right then is adding to the base, and that would be adding a $500 increase to each cell, if you will. And if we put all of this together, then it amounts to a 3.51% increase on the model. Some things to keep in mind is that all agreed, everybody on that committee and from central office agreed that professional development was an ill fit on the model. Doesn't mean professional development isn't meaningful. It is. We just didn't feel the need to arbitrarily attach it. So we're taking that away, but we do intend, if you've earned those points, to pay them out. So one would be on the schedule, and then the other would be at the curricular rate for those points you've accumulated that aren't going to allow you to move in the future. And staff knows this. We shared this with them already last spring, and they've been patiently waiting for the budget picture to become more clear so that we can come back to them and say, this is our recommendation. And then, of course, we had some master's degree disparity. Is a master's degree really worth it? Because it costs you so much money to earn one. And that money, of course, you never completely recoup. But we wanted it to be more reasonable than it was on the last schedule. Tim, anything to add?
If I could, just a couple of points of clarification.
Please.
And particularly for Wayne, who might have not been around back in May when we were presenting this to the board. So staff has not received any of these increases yet this year. They've been frozen at last year's rate. I think back in May, we presented this information, and later, maybe in June or July, we wanted to hold off until we had a little better picture of where the state legislature is going to go. Mike, I would concur that the information I'm hearing is the same. Later in the meeting, we're going to talk about setting the levy and getting general aid certified. That's all going to happen within the next week. So I don't think there's an opportunity for the legislature to mess with the revenue limit formula. The other piece they could come back for after the election would be to look at our per pupil categorical aid. But it's doubtful that there's even time for them to look at that, because that we typically get that aid in January. And so I doubt whether they'll take action. That's kind of what I'm hearing. So for this school year, when I presented the budget at the hearing in August, these relative numbers were built into that staffing budget. So we also, next, at the October meeting, will be coming with you with support staff and the rest of our administrative team with CPI for those folks. And I'm recommending that we look at Bureau of Labor Statistics for the current year ending June 30th over the previous 12-month period as a CPI of 1.81%. So that's also what I built into the budget back in August.
Okay.
Does this compensation model put us pretty much in parallel with our cohorts out there?
I would say for districts our size, you know, if we look specifically at someone like Merrill or folks like that, I think we're very competitive at that rate.
Good.
The committee found a positive on one district's model, and a negative on another, but then there would be a trade-off. For example, I learned that in general, with surrounding districts, teachers prefer our health insurance plan. They tell me it's better than other districts have. So there's always a give and take, but
Yeah, trade-offs.
we did collect models from all over last year and shared them directly with that committee so that they could take a look.
And I think the committee also liked the little bumps that we have in between. Every 3 years, you get a little bit of a $1,500 additional amount, and they, for the most part, wanted us to keep that in there.
Okay. So this will be coming forward at the regular meeting, correct?
Yes, next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go on to the third Friday and open enrollment report.
Okay, I'll jump in on this one, and then Mary Kay, if you want to add, get to it. So let's take a look at that 2020 third Friday enrollment PDF document. This should be one you've seen before. It's Stephanie Parker prepares this, and through the work with all the the building secretaries. And essentially, you can look by school and by grade level. And we make the comment, this is essentially the raw data that we start presenting to DPI for our fall third Friday enrollment. And she's saying there were 1,984 students within the district in district seats. And then we had 175 students attending other schools and other districts. And then 32 non-resident students also attended. For a total enrollment of 2,127. Questions on that document?
Do we think we have any less students at 4K in kindergarten because, you know, maybe parents don't want to send them and they don't have to send them, correct?
You know, Andy, I don't really have a
4K
feel
is
on that,
correct,
but
yeah,
you're
that's not
absolutely correct.
compulsory. Yep.
So let's take a look at that open enrollment report, that 2021 open enrollment report. And this is one that Mary Kay developed. And it really provides you with some detail of where our students are coming from on the left-hand side of the page and where they're going to on the right-hand side of the page. What I like about it is that, for me, it also shows our regular ed versus special ed population and where those folks are going.
And these are the numbers as of third Friday. I do want to let you know that we have had additional students enrolled out of the district since then, probably another 10.
Why are
So-
they open enrolling out now?
I think some of the remote learners that,
Are they-
So what happens in the end is we can go ahead and, if you don't have questions on this, I can move on to the next sheet. So this is the next document, the final one in this area. It's comparing 2020 versus 2021. And you've seen this one before because this is kind of a sheet I use for the revenue limit calculations. And so our revenue limit is set on third Friday count, but our open enrollment tuition, either expense or aid we receive, is an accumulation of kind of like almost like an average daily population. So DPI keeps track of the number of days students are in and out of our district, and we either pay or receive aid based on actual days of attendance. Not necessarily days in school, but the period from which we were claiming them as a student. So on this document, this is one where I give a little bit more detail comparing last year to this year by grade level, and you can see that, and you can see the differences. But then on the right-hand side is where I start looking at the revenue limit formula. Doesn't necessarily look at the actual number of students. They convert it all to FTE. And for an example, our third Friday enrollment number hasn't been totally confirmed from DPI,
But on the bottom in the red there, in that first upper right-hand box, the FTE to use to develop the August 25th budget, I have 2,197 students. Right now, I'm predicting that our FTE is going to be 2,194. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but that's a couple of $1,000, $30,000 of less aid we're going to have to get. One of the things that goes into that calculation is we didn't have summer school this year. I think in total, last year, I think we had 46, the equivalent of 46 students in summer school. This year, we'll have the equivalent of 3 students in summer school. So then I give a breakdown of also the impact of open enrollment tuition, and you can see that and the impact that will have on our budget. Any questions on open enrollment?
I don't have any. Does anybody else have any questions?
Just wish we could stop it.
I would say right now it feels like it's not just Antigo, but a free market. People can go wherever they want to school. And it remains anyone's guess as to post-COVID what will happen. And we as a district will have to make some decisions. You know, if DPI allows us to continue in other districts offering a remote option, are we going to do that? Those kinds of questions will weigh into families' decisions on where to send their kids. But one thing that I hear most often is that it's unlikely any district will go completely back to the way things were before. It's really mind-boggling what we've undergone, but of course we're not alone.
I know a lot of workplaces are finding out that they don't necessarily need as many people on premises as they have had in the past, that they can operate pretty efficiently with people from home.
Okay. We will go on to item F then. Exit interview update.
Okay, this is me. If you recall, last year we employed a gentleman by the name of David Hamelman. He's associated with the Rural Schools Alliance, and he is an independent exit interviewer so that he gets unbiased data, genuine data, and then reports themes, if you will. So this year, he contacted 20 staff members. They can be support staff, teachers, administrators. Contacted 20 and 8 of them responded for a 40% rate. Anyway, very similar to last year's trends, compensation was mentioned in 5 of those 8 as being less than ideal and a factor in leaving. That was the same. Last year, the second most significant trend mentioned was a change in leadership turnover. Happy to say that wasn't mentioned at all this time. And but the second most frequently mentioned issue was the transfer of assignment, and that was mentioned 4 times. And the last data was all singletons, like an unreasonable schedule, the commute was too long, personal reasons, student behaviors. Those all had mentions but did not trend. Any questions on the exit interviews?
Did he say anything about only getting 40% response? Because one of his pitches to me was that he gets a better response. And 40% doesn't seem great.
You know, I thought the same thing. Now, we did have a few appear before the board, and I can't remember if that was last year. At least 2 requested board exit interviews. One that is not on here requested with administrator and with me. But that's a good point, so I can ask him about that when next I speak to him, that rate. And he does make the personal phone call. I know he follows up with emails, so I can check on that.
Okay. Any questions on that? Then we'll keep moving along on to item G, discussion of tax levy and impact on increasing community service.
Okay, first of all, I owe an apology to the board members. October's a busy month where I'm in the budget every day for multiple hours, so I've got a lot of stuff going on in my head, and I think it should be pretty easy to pick up on. But you haven't seen this since August, and I thought this morning after our meeting that I should probably put something together rather than just ramble on. You can see the information firsthand. So this is an estimated tax levy that we saw at the budget hearing. And if you look at that mauve-colored column, that's where I estimated we would be. So the first mistake that I think I've made from the hearing is you look down on the lower left-hand side, there's a tax rate. Back in July, when I was looking at preliminary estimates of equalized value, I assumed the tax equalization value increase of 2.5%. On October 1, we got the certified equalized values, and it's 1.9%. So when I look at the our equalized value across the district, instead of being 1.18 billion, it's there's a slight difference, and that small difference has an impact on the tax levy. It's going to be a little bit higher. So then in the area that I have circled, I'm kind of doing a what if. And I told you at the hearing that we had put about $1 million into fund balance. And when we put money into fund balance, we don't get general aid on that money. Because we haven't, it's called shared cost. Well, if we don't have a cost, the state can't share in it. So we're likely to get less in general equalization aids this year. But that's happening across the whole state of Wisconsin. A lot of schools, because of COVID, were able to, on June 30th, put money away. But then right away, starting in July, our expenses were much higher than they were prior years. But the aid formula just looks at June 30th. So the value I reported at the hearing is the estimate that I got from DPI, but knowing that we put $1 million in fund balance. So the numbers that I'm showing you there, where we're going from an estimated tax rate of $7, and let's call it 5 cents per thousand, versus what I'm reporting if the general aids are down to what I think they may be down. And we're looking there at $7.45. And I know that when I look historically, I think the state average for mill rate is probably in that $9.50 range across the state, some higher, some lower. So we will know on October 15th when we get the general aids certification from DPI, which is just another day or two, and I'll have a better handle on it. But the reason I bring this up tonight is that the pool has really been impacted severely by COVID. And we put restrictions on the pool where we've got to keep our attendance low. People have to call in and have a reservation. They have very limited access to swimming. And as a result, our attendance is down. And the pool has, the philosophy of the board, the aquatics board, is to keep our admissions as low as possible so that we can make it a place that anybody in our community can go to. And right now, we have about an $80,000 fund balance in the pool. And we've got one additional project that we really should be looking at, and that's replacing the filtering system. And that's a considerable capital outlay to the tune of somewhere, I think Mary got one estimate for almost $100,000. So one avenue would be to look at increasing the Fund 80 levy. And just as a reminder, the Fund 80 levy is for community use, and it's a non-aided levy. So we put it on the taxes, DPI does not share in the cost, and it's strictly local. The last time we raised the levy, I believe, was either 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm suggesting after we get the aid certification, and I run the calculations, I want to look at where the mill rate will be. And you can look at $10,000 on the levy for the community, for the pool, adds roughly about a penny to the mill rate. So I am likely going to come with a recommendation, and you as board members will have to decide whether you agree with that, to look at trying to raise the levy, even if it's only for 1 year. Because the pool can carry fund balance, but we either have to raise the levy or the general fund has to support it if we go deficit. So I just think it's prudent for us to look at it, to make small tweaks if we have to. And this is really, for them, just a real uncertain times.
So, Tim, are you saying to raise the levy to get $80,000?
I'm saying to raise the levy so we're not dipping into that pool fund balance. And that could be somewhere between 30 and 50, but I chose a number just for example's sake of rounding it up to 300,000. You know, I think our mill rate is still relatively low by comparison, but we won't really know until the 15th of October, and I won't have time to speak to you before then. So I will likely be coming with a recommendation after that based on the findings from DPI.
Okay.
Questions or concerns of anyone? Or do you not want to entertain it at all and let the community service fund go on its own?
No, I think we do want to entertain it.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that needs to be addressed, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, where are we here? H, review adaptive physical education manual.
We're very pleased tonight to have two of our FIAD instructors here, Erin Husnick and Becky West.
Hi, everyone.
Come on up, ladies.
There's a microphone here if you need it too.
Oh, I'm good.
Sure?
They're FIAD teachers.
So we're very excited. We were here last spring.
Yep.
And our adapted FIAD manual has been finalized. Heidi was able to work through that over the past couple of months and to help us be able to roll that out into all of the schools and to have it and the district manual for our adapted FIAD program. So this year, I teach adapted FIAD at the high school. Nick Schrempf is our middle school instructor, and Mandy Mock is our elementary adapted FIAD teacher servicing our students. And so Becky and I have been able to work with UWSP Dr. Christy Roth, and we learned so much from her over the last year and a half to really put this together and to have this as part of our district FIAD curriculum, and to be able to kind of have our voice and really service our students in the best way, least restrictive environment that we're able to. And we were able to roll this out with our high school staff 2 weeks ago, last Friday, middle school special ed staff, and then this Friday we'll present it to the elementary special ed staff, just so that they know how to contact us, how to work together with us, always including us on the IEPs, just really having our voice from a FIAD standpoint for all of our students. We're very excited to have it final and be able to share it with everyone.
And then we also had talked about like from level to level, at least in years past, we kind of got lost in the shuffle. So we have more documentation in there that can go from elementary to middle school to high school, so we're all on the same page. And then those, we can go through the processes, I think, a lot easier. And then we are also, Erin can talk about this, but we are starting that unified class that we talked about last year, so she will be doing that fourth quarter at the high school.
And so it'll be a pairing of regular ed students and special ed students, and we're just very excited to have this opportunity for both populations of students. We think it's a great class. It's called Unified Physical Education, and we're going to learn this year, and we're excited to have it, but we hope in the future that we'll have it at the middle school level as well. Anyone have any questions?
Okay. So how's FIAD been going? Is it totally outside?
And 100% outside as long as we can. Yesterday, we got rained out. We have been biking more than we've ever biked, ever.
Yeah, I saw a lot of
Mike
biking
Flood and
out.
I are, I mean, this is the most we've ever biked, all day, every day.
So what did
No,
you do?
not really every day, but a lot of days. Until our weather changes, we are outside, yeah.
What did you do yesterday then when it rained?
So most of our in-person classes are about 8 or 9 students. And right now we can have up to 10 in the cardio room. So we were able to have each group in there. We split the block. And then the other group, with only that many kids, we can use individual, we have enough kettlebells or bands or bars. So it's really lifelong fitness stuff, which is always our goal. With these small class sizes for in-person, it's been really great for that. Even like our mini trampolines, we only have 12, so the kids have always had to share in the past. So we're able to do a lot of individual stuff and then just spray them down, and then we switch. So it's been very, very good with the small classes and the equipment that we have. But then our remote kids they are using, we've been excited about it. There's an app called Strava. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but we absolutely love it. So it just holds our kids accountable. Last spring, we really struggled with that accountability piece for our students working from home. And so now our remote students are logging in every day, and they're logging a minimum of 45 minutes, either biking, hiking, walking, or running. And that's automatic feedback, and they upload and sync their workouts with us daily. And it's just been amazing to be able to be on Strava and working through that and being able to see that they are out and active. And we're a little concerned as the weather changes. We're not sure if they're going to be as eager to get out, but right now I think it's just a really good mental health break for them, and also they are held accountable in that aspect. So it's been good.
So do you have enough sets of skis that all your FIAD classes can be cross-country skiing in the winter?
Yeah.
So you make a course out here? Good.
Yeah, actually, Mike Vivette, Dave Curran have always trying to work together. They make us a path for our snowshoeing and our cross-country skiing. We have 30 sets, so depending what our in-person numbers look like, we can go together, which is nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from anybody?
Before you go on, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to these two because the manual that's uploaded in there was their work. And it's actually being asked for by other districts as a model potentially. So, and that was all them, and they're passionate about making it, getting our adaptive program where it needs to be, or our services where it needs to be. So, thank you guys.
Nice job.
Good job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
I
here.
have a question. Could I have a hard copy of that manual so I could use it for Special Olympics?
Sure.
Yes, we'll get you one, Jeannie.
Jeannie, I'll have it for you to borrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will go on to action items, and item A is consideration to approve amendment to the 2021 employee handbook.
So a staff member found an error in our handbook, which is why it's here for you this evening. what happened, and do I have the page number here?
34.
Thank you, on page 34. As you know, we moved away from the traditional department chair position to a school leadership team. And we had such tremendous interest in people wanting to serve on that team, far more applicants than we expected, that we decided to take all of those applicants and we reduced the stipend from $2,500 to $2,000. The good news is they all knew that on the front end that it was $2,000. They signed a contract that said $2,000, and we failed to make that change in the handbook that you had approved. So it is a minor detail, except it isn't, because I don't like that we had that error in there. But we are asking you to approve the handbook as is, because on page 34, we've made that change.
Okay.
Well, if that's the case, I move the board approve the 2020-2021 employee handbook amendment to read school leadership team compensation $2,000 instead of $2,500.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or questions?
Could you kind of run this by me?
Sure.
What's,
A school leadership team?
well, they're replacing the department heads from what I understand, is that,
Yes.
okay.
So the main reason for that is it's no secret we're on a mission to improve student achievement. And we found that, like many other districts, the traditional department chair position has historically belonged to high school teachers, which is fine, but then it had only impacted high school achievement. And not even so much achievement as it was like a managerial thing of doing budget requests, for example. So, and we paid our department chairs pretty handsomely, actually, for the responsibility that had, again, traditionally been theirs. So what we did through this grant that we were awarded, Wayne, is we are using the DPI's suggested structure of school leadership teams instead. So we met with everybody, you know, we wanted to make sure we did this the right way. We informed the board, of course, and everybody had the right to apply to be a school leadership team member. And we were so pleased with the applicants that I think we have, anyone knows, at high 20s
For members?
of members.
30. We're close to 30.
30. And so what we're able to do now is have them be 4K through 12 leadership instead of just high school, focused on primarily budget and ordering materials. So we're very excited about sharing that responsibility and having it positively impact all schools and students.
Why is compensation being cut? I mean, we're cutting the compensation from $2,500 on to $2,000.
We had budgeted that certain number thinking we'd have fewer applicants, kind of like when Tim builds a budget and then you have to amend it. When we had all of those applicants, we all agreed it would be better, rather than take fewer of them at $2,500, take all of them at $2,000.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? And then we do a roll call.
Balzer?
Yes.
Bolduc?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Neufeld?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Then we'll go on to item B, first reading of the all policy special updates, March through September 2020. Anybody got any questions or comments on these? Did you have a chance to look at them if you so chose?
Read through it today.
Didn't see anything too shattering there.
So most of it's just common sense, updating, boilerplate kind of stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary.
We'll have a big update in November then. Our 29.2 update will be in November.
Okay. Okay, so this serves as the first reading. And then we will have the second reading at the regular board meeting.
Yes.
Second reading?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go on to district new hires.
I move the board approve the following new hire, Christopher Robinson, middle school assistant principal, effective October 14th, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Mr. Robinson starts with us tomorrow. He's already been onboarding with Heather, and of course Amy's involved in that transition, so we're excited to have him on board.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Very excited.
That was a little too enthusiastic.
Well, I was a little upset that he scheduled, he has all the meetings set up tomorrow, he's got like a bunch of staff, but he was working during the lunch hour, and I'm like, I need you to sub in that lunchroom tomorrow, so. But we're gonna figure it out without him. It's gonna be great, so we're really excited, and Amy has been a great help, and everybody's ready to make the transition, so thanks.
Okay. Okay, then we would go ahead and do a roll call.
Bolduc,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Halsey,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. And that just leaves us with confirming the next meeting of committee of the whole to be November 10th, Tuesday, November 10th. And then we'll be here at 6 o'clock. And with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor?
All right.
Hey.
Okay. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Drive safe.
Thank you,
Night,
Jeannie.
Jeannie.
Andy, I don't know, I think my handbag looks pretty nice next to you.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm gonna start running through there. What is this doing here?
It's large enough for my computer, my folders, everything I use. And it's Red Robin.
Hello.
I hope she hangs in there.